Do you ever have a hunch that just something is wrong? I had that happen. There were 6 of us in my family, my husband, me, and 4 kids. And I had a hunch something was wrong with immunizations or vaccinations, but ignored it. I am a pharmacist. I know the data, the CDC guidelines. I know the schedule, the immunization schedule of when kids get what shots. And I know that it decreased the risk of, polio and smallpox. And the reason we don't have smallpox anymore is because of the smallpox inoculation and blah, blah, blah. Right. But I always had this hunch. Like, I always had this, like, internal, are you sure dialogue going in my head. And just recently, I've kind of pieced things together as I have done more research on vaccines than I ever have before, not just accepting what the CDC says, but like looking actually into the data of vaccines. It's made me realize that there were things that I just knew in my gut were probably from the vaccines. And I can't prove 100% that it caused it. And I can't, like, you can't look it up on the computer and it will say, oh, yes, this vaccine causes this, X, Y, and Z, because they basically say vaccines are magic and they have no side effects and they're just amazing, right? But just if you have this gut feeling that something's wrong, look into it, right? There are parents who just swear that their kiddos were totally fine before vaccine and totally different 2 or 3 days after the vaccine because of X, Y, and Z. Who knows, right? I'm not going to say the side effects of vaccines or not side effects of vaccines. I'm just going to say that there are parents who swear they knew their kid before and now they know their kid is just different now. Let me give you 2 examples within my own family of 6. There's actually 3 of us, now that I think about it, who I think have vaccine related issues or did. Okay. So the first one is me. So about 15 years ago, I started getting these like red eczema spots. They were just itchy red spots. And I've never had asthma, eczema, allergies, immune system issues in my life, right? But about 15 years ago, I just started getting itchy spots randomly on my body, mostly behind my head. And it was driving me crazy. I was scratching my head all the time. And it took a long time to figure out that I was allergic to eggs, but I've never been allergic to eggs before. I'm almost 40 years old. I've never had an allergy to eggs. So I went 25 years of my life with nothing wrong. And then just it slowly got worse over time. And I know my allergist, I went to an allergist. She's like, it's an egg allergy. Allergies can just pop up out of nowhere, which to me is kind of weird. It means that there's some sort of immune response to an allergy that you didn't have before, but you have now. What's going on, right? So at the time, I was like, oh, that's weird. I just have this weird egg allergy. And it got worse and worse and worse to the point where I couldn't eat eggs and like cookies, right? Cookies, you could have a whole batch of cookies with just one little egg. So you're just getting a little bit of an egg in each cookie. And I couldn't even eat those. Like it would just cause this itchy breakout rash that wasn't awful, but to the point where I didn't want it anymore, right? So I stopped eating eggs. And then my husband, about 5, nah, maybe 8 years ago, started getting really itchy on the back of his head. And I was like, do you have it too? And he's like, why would I? I've gone my whole life without any egg allergies. And I was like, why would you? That's so weird. Well, since 2020, we have shifted things on our vaccine thoughts. And we have since stopped getting the flu shots because we're not at risk for flu. And no one in our family is at risk for flu. So we stopped getting flu shots. And lo and behold, both of us are able to eat eggs again. After about 3 or 4 years of not getting flu shots, both of us are like, oh, I can eat cookies and cakes and things that have eggs. I still can't do scrambled eggs or, just eggs, but I can do it baked into something and I don't have an issue. I haven't had an eczema spot in a long time. And then I started thinking, well, what in the world? Why did I have no egg allergy? Then I had an egg allergy, and now I'm growing out of this egg allergy. That makes no sense. Flu shots. My brain turned on. And this makes perfect sense as a pharmacist and just knowing immunology in general. So the influenza vaccines are inactivated flu virus, right? So it's not active. It can't give you the flu because they're inactive, but they do elicit an immune response. That's why when you get the flu shot, sometimes you still feel sick. Like you just feel achy and you get a mild fever, you just kind of feel like you have a mild flu. People used to tell me all the time, oh, I don't get the flu shot, it gives me the flu. Well, no, it doesn't give you the flu, but it makes you kind of feel yucky because it elicits an immune response. It's a whole point. But doesn't it also make sense that if your immune system is trying to recognize this foreign virus that's inactive and doesn't make you sick, so that when it sees the real active virus, it knows how to attack it? That's the whole mechanism of the flu shot. It recognizes the inactive so that when the active comes along, it kills it before it makes you sick. But doesn't it also make sense that if there is a foreign protein attached to that flu virus, that your body will start thinking that that is also bad? So flu shots are incubated in chicken eggs. That's why they say if you have an egg allergy, tell your pharmacist or your physician before you get the flu shot. Now, if it's not anaphylaxis, we just give it to you. But that means that that means it can cause an immune response to eggs, because basically you're telling your immune system that the flu virus is bad, but what's attached to it? An egg protein. So now you just told your immune system that the egg protein might be the flu virus, and your body's going to start attacking it. And I think that's why my husband and I have an egg allergy now. Now, we were getting flu shots. Now, I did not get flu shots. Sean, my husband, didn't get them either up until I started pharmacy school and he started working as a firefighter. And that's when we started getting flu shots. So like 20s, when we were like in our 20s. And we got them for about 10 or 15 years, right? And so it got worse and worse and worse over time. And then COVID happened and we were like, you know what, let's just do our research on this. So we stopped getting the flu shots, and lo and behold, we're better again. So there was that time window where I can show you, like, I was fine, and then I got the flu shots, and then I wasn't fine, and then I stopped the flu shots and I'm fine again, right? It's one of those like, well, if you're not sure, trial it and see. And every time I got a flu shot, my eczema and itching would get worse for like a month, and it was awful. And I got to a point where I dreaded getting flu shots because I started putting it together. I think this is what's causing my itching. It's made in an egg. That's what this is. So that's the first flag with vaccines that my husband and I both have as adults. The second red flag for me, where my gut should have said something, but I didn't listen to it. I didn't. So my 10-year-old now is totally healthy, totally fine. And we gave her all the vaccines from 0 to 5 years old. But now looking back, I should have known. I kick myself for not knowing. When she was in the hospital, this is what they do for every baby. They give them the hepatitis B and the vitamin K shots, right? And like, she was 3 hours old. We did skin to skin for about 2 hours, and then the doctor took her over to the table, checked her, and then they said, do you want to put the erythromycin gel on her eyeballs or her eyelids? Do you want to do the shots? And I was like, absolutely. I'm a pharmacist. Of course we want to do the shots. And now in retrospect, I'm like, why did I give a baby a hepatitis B shot? Hepatitis B is from an STD or IV drug use, neither of which she's at risk for. So if I want to give her these shots, why don't I just wait until she's older, when she could possibly be at risk for those things? Why would I give it to an hours old baby when she's not even at risk? So that to me is like red flag. But I didn't even think about it, right? So we gave her the Hep B shot. And I'm not kidding, within hours, my healthy, sleepy baby girl just started screaming. And by screaming, I mean she screamed for 17 hours a day for 7 months. And it didn't matter if I was holding her, feeding her, my husband was holding her, she was in a swing, she had a pacifier, she had a bottle, she had formula, she had breast milk. I changed my diet. We had a sound machine, we had a swing, we had wraps, we had car seats. Literally nothing calmed this baby down. She screamed so hard, it broke my heart, to the point where my own grandma was like, how do you do this? And I'm like, I mean, I don't have a choice. I hope she gets over it. She's been screaming for 7 months, 17 hours a day. If she was awake, she was screaming, to the point where every time she woke up, I got anxiety because I knew the only time she didn't scream was when she slept. And she didn't look uncomfortable. She wasn't gassy. We tried those things too. We tried like omeprazole and ranitidine and tummy, Gas X for her tummy, little gas drops, and we tried gripe water. We tried literally everything to get this child to stop screaming. And really, I snuggled her while she screamed all day long. She just screamed all day. And at the time, we just didn't put it together. But now, since then, I'm starting to think that there is there are, I wouldn't say data, right? Because there's no data that vaccines cause any problems at all, guys. It doesn't, no problems, even though there's parents who swear that baby was fine before and totally different after. All anecdotal, no evidence, nothing wrong. But now I'm looking back and I'm thinking, she was fine before the Hep B vaccine, but she was only like 3 hours old. So I don't even know what fine was. But man, is that why she screamed? Was she uncomfortable? Was there something going on? Since then, I've heard parents say that vaccines made their children just scream. And like it was like they were trying to tell you something, but they couldn't. So you just dealt with it. What's really bad is I gave her all 3 Hep B vaccines. She got one at newborn, 2 months, 6 months. So every few months, I was redoing what I caused the problem with before. And it wasn't until she was 7 or 8 months that she stopped screaming, because at that point she got through her Hep B series and was done. But I basically just kept doing it. And I didn't put it together. And I feel awful now as a mom thinking, am I the reason she screamed and she was uncomfortable and there was obviously something wrong? But I was sucked into the vaccine brainwashing of it couldn't possibly be the vaccine. Who would even consider it in that case? And I didn't until recently. And now I look back and I think, oh, that's why. That's why she was colicky. And people were just saying, sorry, she's colicky. And I'm like, you don't understand. It's not just colic. This girl, like, colic is 3 hours a day, most days of the week, not 17 hours a day, every day, all day, if she was awake screaming. So I do think that there's something to be said about these vaccines. And there's only 6 of us in the family, and 3 of us have had issues that I'm like 98% sure are caused by the vaccines. So that's just my story. I know the data out there doesn't link vaccines to literally anything: SIDS, autism, behavioral issues, allergies, asthma. They say it doesn't link, but there are millions of parents out there who can attest otherwise, right? So I appreciate the fact that the new administration is trying to look into it more. I'm not saying they're going to find it. I'm just saying that it makes me feel better if we do have answers. The question is, if we find answers and they're inconvenient, what are we going to do? So I don't know. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe, like, share it with some friends. If you have any anecdotal thoughts on your vaccines and your history with those vaccines, or if you think that you saw something happen, I'd be curious to know. So if you want to comment underneath this video, that'd be awesome, and I can look into it too. I'm trying to look into the data. It's fuzzy. It's hard to find any information that isn't what they want you to know. So that's what I'm finding over time. Thank you for watching, and stay healthy.